Hello, we are Radical Honesty, and as you probably guessed from the title of this video down there, maybe, wherever it is, everyone's seen recently that there's been a possible teaser to indicate that there may be a fourth Dragon Age game in the works. And while we hope that is definitely the case, we just find ourselves wondering what we saw that at the end of the Trespasser DLC, there were certain things shown to us that indicate what the next one's probably going to be about. And the teaser seemed to also hint at those things. Now, we've been wondering, are the developers going to keep up with the classic Dragon Age tradition and force us to play as a new character? Now, our opinion's a little bit mixed on this. While we don't think it would be a terrible idea, part of us would kind of prefer to play as the Inquisitor again. To advance that story a bit more. Surely there are things he could do, more he could do, But at the end of the day, if they do decide to build a new character, to make us build a new character, and just keep the world state, like an import save, like they have done previously for Mass Effect and Dragon Age in the past. We've had some thoughts about it. Now, there's going to be spoilers for the Trespasser content here. So if you haven't played the Trespasser content and you don't want it ruining, we're advising you not to watch this video until after that content, because there are going to be some spoilers here, okay? You have been warned. We just warned you right then, and now we're warning you now, okay? If you haven't played it and you don't want it spoiling, fuck off. Thank you. Okay. Now, Fenharal, sorry. Solus, or twat, as we like to call it. Complete useless cunt all the way through all the way through Inquisition. He's the one companion we truly despised, because he's like the Anita Sarkeesian of Dragon Age. Unless you completely agree with him on everything he says, it's like he's impossible to talk to. Anyway, it's looking like he's going to be the baddie of the next game, considering he's not actually an elf. He's an elven god or a dread wolf or something. We don't quite get it. If Flemeth was Mythal, is Solus possessed by the spirit of Fenharal, like her, just from long ago? Or is he the physical embodiment of the god, the dread wolf, in the form of an elf? We don't know. But at the end of the Trespasser content, you see him, looking at a map to Vinter. And then that's got us thinking, we've never been there before, have we? And we want to go. Yeah, we definitely want to go to Vinter. We want to see all this great stuff that Dorian described to us. All the great architecture and stuff. And it would be most liberating to see a city or a country, an empire that is completely ruled by mages. And he got us thinking of another thing. How most people consider Tevinter is almost entirely negative. Dorian was good, he was alright. He was a decent enough sort. He wasn't a twat. He was kind of funny as well. And he had a really nice ass, didn't he? Yeah, we went that way. We romanced him as one of our characters. We've been thinking, throughout the Dragon Age series, starting with the first one, you've always kind of played the good guy, haven't you? Let's see, as the first game, you played the Warden. You could play it as a dick. Let's face it, there weren't that many big moments. Well, there were a few big moments in the game, but not many overall, like in the Mass Effect series, where you could do the renegade sort of options. You know, you could destroy the Urn of Sacred Ashes with the blood, and that would force you to kill Liliana if she's with you, and possibly win. And definitely that Guardian guy. We've never actually done it ourselves, so we don't know what the future, what happens afterwards in the game, because we've never thought to do that. There was really no point. We just destroyed we killed the guy who wanted you to do it. We listened to him once. He said put blood in it, and then it's like ruined because Andraste's now a dragon or some shit. But we never actually did it because we just killed him and took his weapon. That's all you really wanted from him. Then there's siding with the Templars perhaps and killing all the mages. But then again, that's neither good nor bad really, because the mages, the Templars, neither of those two groups are evil. So if you side with one over the other, it's just simply which side you come down on. Do you believe mages are a threat and there's too many abominations, or do you believe mages should have a chance even though some of them are evil, not all of them are? So that's really not so much a renegade option as far as we're concerned. Then there's the Anvil of the Void. You know, enslaving people to the Anvil of the Void, if you give it to Branka, is kind of fucked up. So, renegade. Letting the werewolves wipe out the Dalish, renegade obviously. Leaving Connor possessed by the demon in exchange for blood magic. Demon, you know, bad, you know, renegade. Those are the really only things there that actually have any kind of weight. But at the end of the day, at the same time, they don't really have weight, because at the end of the day, you still get your army, you still defeat the Archdemon, and you're still the hero. Hey, you slaughtered a lot of people and a lot of elves and enslaved people in Anvil Void. Go you, you're awesome. You know, so at the end of the day, you still win against the Archdemon. So you're still the good guy, you're still the staunch hero for Elden. Second game, you had kind of a retreat from the Blight. Now, you could argue that Hawk was neither good nor evil. He was more of a neutral character, and it certainly started off that way. You could choose who you worked for, which side you were on, and things like that. But it's not until the second act that's when it really decides to make you who you are. The end of the second act involves you becoming champion. Champion kind of suggests good guy, doesn't it? And then, of course, there's the ending of the game, in which you can go either way. We suppose you could have considered yourself a bad guy if you decided to support Anders, but what kind of knobhead would do that? Considering Anders was basically an abomination who destroyed the Chantry and killed a lot of people because he was pissed off. Dick. Inquisition, let's face it. They couldn't have painted you as more of a good guy than if they could possibly try. You know, you're the Herald of Andraste. Even if you decide to deny that, you know, we've played a few characters in that. We love Dragon Age Inquisition. We've just been playing it, in fact. PS4 version. And we're constantly putting new characters through the game, you know, trying it different ways. We just made an ultimate dick mode character. Everything's negative to him. All negative responses to dialogue. And he's a dwarf, you know, he's like, fuck you. Don't give a shit. It's former Carter, he's a criminal. What do you expect? He's going to obviously be in it for himself. But Herald of Andraste, the Inquisitor, saving the world from Gryphius, you're the good guy. You could hardly be worse than Gryphius. He wanted to destroy the entire world, or become a god and then destroy, or something anyway. We don't really have any idea of the motivations for him because, as someone said, what he yearns to, we think it was Josephine who said, what he yearns to restore, meaning Tevinter, no longer exists. It's not the Imperium it once was, so waste of time. Also, he died like a complete bitch. Corypheus. Died like a bitch. Anyway, we're thinking, if they do start you off in Tevinter as a new character, why can't you be set up as the bad guy? Or at least as someone morally reprehensible. And we had some interesting ideas about this because you hear about from Dorian how it's like, how often is blood magic practiced in the Imperium? He's like, no, not at all. But what you consider blood magic and what they consider blood magic, well, that's where it gets a bit squiffy. Demon summoning and shit like that is not admitted to, but it's assumed that any mage of rank does it. And using your own blood or the blood of a willing participant for spells, where's the harm? And he's kind of right. It's not really evil if you're willing to use your own blood to provide you power. Because it's like lyrium, isn't it? In Dragon Age 1, Jarwan says to you, you need to go to the Fade to defeat the demon. Normally requires lyrium and several mages, but he has blood magic, so blood magic increases your power. But blood magic in the Dragon Age series, in our personal opinion, has always been complete shite. Not worth using. So we never have. But what if we start off in the new game as some form of Maleficar? Now, we did realise that you can't have a Dragon Age game without the three main classes. Rogue, Warrior, Mage. And since Warriors and Rogues won't use magic, not specific magic anyway, you can't, they're not going to be a blood mage. This is not possible. So we've been thinking, what about these ideas are ours in particular, by drawing on some of the aspects of Inquisition, but changing them in a certain way to give you something a bit more refreshing. So let's just say you start off as a warrior. You choose the warrior character because you love the melee weapons, the pounding someone with a big fucking hammer and shit. What happens if at the start of the game, considering your character, they give you a certain quest? You know, in the first game, you had one of the 6 starting missions for your particular character. You know, you had the Dalish Elf, the City Elf, Mage, Human Noble, blah blah blah. But in this, you could make it 3 different stories, because in the second game you really only had one: escape from Lothering, go to Kirkwall. That's basically your starting mission, no matter who you are, no matter what you are. That's the same mission. The combat just differs. And third game, close the breach. That's the opening mission. You got to go up there, meet Varric, meet Solus, and then close the breach after defeating the Pride Demon. That's that. Same mission for everybody. Combat just differs. So what about in Tevinter? If the mission's the same, but different in small ways for each particular character class? You know, because no doubt they're going to put you at the center of the story. You're the protagonist. It's your story. You're playing as this character in this story, you know, on this adventure. And if they're going to start in Tevinter, why not do something along the lines of you're a warrior, but you hear about, you've always been dissatisfied at how warriors are looked on in the Imperium, and how mages are the bosses, really. This could also work for a rogue. So you hear tales of a demon that will grant you exceptional power if you can make a deal with it or defeat it. It will grant you a certain power. Now, this power is going to be different for each class, as will the reasons for hunting it down, with the exception of the warrior and the rogue, because the warrior and the rogue story, the start-off point, could be the same. You are a warrior or a rogue, not a mage. Therefore, as Dorian would have probably put, you're a second-class citizen. And you're tired of this. So you find this legend of a demon that will grant you power if you can defeat it or deal with it. So you hunt it down, and that's where you get your starting class. You got your standard warrior abilities there. But when you get there, it'll give you a certain unlockable ability. It'll unlock an ability for you that you can use in combat. Now, this we think should be similar to the focus aspect from Dragon Age Inquisition. You had the meter around. Now, we're thinking perhaps for the warrior, some sort of, like if you're a two-handed, heavy swordsman or maul wielder or something like that, you either smash it on the ground and then it's like a fucking blast of energy just wipes out everybody, or at least heavily damages everybody. You spin your blade around and just go, or maybe if you're weapon and shield, you can just like fucking Dante from Devil May Cry and just slice a cunt in half, or several cunts. Or a rogue. This was one we were particularly proud of. This one. What happens if you're a rogue? This is also taking slightly from another BioWare game, Jade Empire. What happens if, with the rogue ability, you can cause yourself to disappear, your primary self to disappear, and like if you've got like 6 guys in front of you, a duplicate of yourself appears behind every one of them and gives them a backstab. Not necessarily fatal, but it's a bonus ability that'll do a lot of damage, and you're not going to be, it's going to be effective no matter which class you are. And if you're a mage, maybe towers of fire come up from the ground, or ice, depending on which one you choose or what you decide to set it as. We don't know for certain, but these are just some preliminary ideas that we've been having. And hence, that could sort of paint you and your character, no matter what your class, as a powerful individual, even if you're not a mage. And then you could sort of go through the opening mission itself. That's just your starting story. You. Not the world, you. Like the stories from the original game. These stories were not a part of the Blight. They were just, Duncan showed up in them all, but it really only affected your character in the start of your journey. And then afterwards you can get on with the Ostigar segment or whatever it is, and be introduced to the world and the story through that. Since Solus is trying to pull down the walls of the Fade to save the elves, even though he's going to kill all the elves when he does it, we consider the fact that Tevinter might be a pretty high profile target for him, considering he's really pissed. And didn't Tevinter destroy all the elves or something? We don't know. He said at one point, their empire was built on the bones of his people, we think. He said that in just after Haven was destroyed, we think. So you could assume that he would go after Tevinter. it'd be a logical step. So after your starting mission with your demon deal or whatever it is, and you're basically, you've been set up as someone who's morally reprehensible. But in this next mission, you prove that your abilities are key. Let's just say your character, whatever their class, this little deal that you made has somehow made them uniquely capable to fight this threat. Now, we're not exactly sure how you'd set that up, as to what we said, but these are just some ideas. We thought we'd run them by the people who find the games fun and see what you think. But let's just say that you are uniquely capable of fighting this particular threat thanks to your demon deal, or whatever it was. You defeated the demon and stole its power, or you made a deal with it to give you power. But you're considered morally reprehensible. That would work in a few different ways. Because at the start of the game, nobody really likes you at the start of any of the games. In the first game, you start off with the affection meter at the bottom of the companion's thing. You can give them gifts or say and do the right things, and they'll either approve or disapprove of you. And that continues in Dragon Age 2 in the same way, basically. It's friendship rivalry. And in the third game, you've got approve, disapprove again. Now, you start off in this game as some people will respect your abilities, so you'll be okay with them for starters. But then again, if you decide to bring in characters from Inquisition to star, or at least make possible party members in this new one, maybe Cassandra if she doesn't become divine, maybe Liliana, who knows, perhaps Ironbull, who knows, we don't know who the companions will be, but let's see if you get a possible Templar companion who's against blood magic. You'll start off with a negative reputation with him, but as the game goes on, you can either show him that you're not a bad guy just because you use something that he considers forbidden. If you use it in this way, maybe it's not so bad after all. It's just not like you're going around sacrificing virgins to Satan or anything, and you're not killing innocent people with it, so what's the harm? How is it evil? You did make a deal with a demon, or kill the demon to take its power, so you are a vessel for demonic energy. But at the end of the day, how you choose to use that energy, that power, that gift, isn't dictated to you at the start, So even they might have trouble eventually seeing you as anything evil. They still probably won't approve of the origin of your ability, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make you a cunt just because you use it, because you're using it to save the world. And let's face it, you couldn't really have one of these games without you saving something, because they always seem to do that. They always seem to something needs saving. First game, stop the Blight, save for Eldon. Second game, save the city of Kirkwall, the Free Marches. First from the Canary, then from the mages and Templars from going crazy. And then in the Inquisition, you save it from the Mage Templar Rebellion War. Then you save it from Corypheus after you figure out he's involved. And this one seems to be saving the world from Solus, or Fenral, whatever the hell he wants to be called. And these companions could be like, well, we don't like the source of his power, but look at how he's using it. It's not being a cunt. So maybe he's not so bad after all, And you can build up your like-dislike ratio with them that way, Or you could just be a complete bastard and just totally fucking abuse it. And let's face it, some of us out there, we want to do that, don't we? We really want to fuck people over and be a bad guy for a change. Fuck's sake. Sick and tired of being the staunch hero of the land. The whiter than white asshole who just... We want to be evil at one point. Fuck. So maybe those are some good ideas. We don't know. We want to know what you think. Because we're quite pleased with those ideas. Shit, we'd make a game ourselves if we weren't technologically retarded. We can't write code for shit. We don't know anything about it. But we just thought we'd get these ideas out there. Because as it's been teased, and it could be on its way in a few years, obviously we're not talking anytime soon because it takes time to properly create a game. And they're going to want to make the best game they possibly can because they have to follow Inquisition. And they know what it's like following a Dragon Age game with one that's not as good. First game, yeah, it was great. Second game, now we know people don't like the second game that much. Far too many repeated environments, and yes, we'll give you that. But we didn't mind it. We kind of like Dragon Age 2. You know, the character is... There's a problem with the character. Hawk is always a human. That's not really that great. When there could have been other people fleeing the Blight, there probably were. Let's not forget Meryl's clan came over on Aravels to the Free Marches. They started off in the same place. Pretty much just outside the city. But you didn't start as anything other than a human. Which was a shame. Far too many repeated environments, as we've already said. And it gets to the ridiculous. They turn it into the repeating environments at an absolutely astounding rate. There's no excuse for that. But the story itself, while the first act was a bit, the second act was something we enjoyed, the Qunari threat. And the third act was a logical way to conclude it, considering that we were followed with Inquisition, which tied in directly to the events of Kirkwall. You know, it's mentioned, and Hawk does make an appearance in Inquisition. Not to mention you start by meeting up with Varric, who has been brought from Kirkwall to speak to the Divine to tell the story of the champion and everything that happened. So the events of Kirkwall are related to the events that begin Inquisition. Not so much at the later stage. In fact, it's pretty much forgotten by the end of the first act when you leave Haven. It only gets mentioned briefly when you talk to Hawk about Anders. Because the Mage Civil War and the Templars going on nuts has been ended by that point. And it's now about killing the twat with the giant dragon. But this new one, well, we don't know much about it other than the fact that there's been a teaser of a booklet or something that's got a picture of a burning wolf's head over a castle. It could symbolise Fen Haral and things like that. We do hope this will come out because we enjoy it, but they're going to take as much time as they can to build the best game they can. After all, they've got to follow Inquisition, and they already know after Dragon Age 2 debacle how not to do it. So they're going to keep their heads down and they're going to build the best product they can. So yeah, it's not going to be soon. But given that could possibly take place in Tevinter, we think that these ideas could be quite logical to start off with, considering not every mage in Tevinter is like Dorian, as he said. Some of them are a set of pricks. You know, why can't you play as one? Maybe an altus of one of the noble houses, like Dorian. But let's just say your father, he's not very squeamish about blood magic. In fact, he's schooled you himself. His Majesty your father, and he's trained you up to be more accepting of blood magic. Or, for the other races, you could start off as a slave, if you're an elf, or a dwarf, and your master, he's more of the kind of guy who would be like, take what you can get. If you get a chance to acquire power for yourself, seize it. And let's face it, if you're a slave in service to somebody in Tevinter, you might think, fuck yeah, of course we're going to take this power. We can defeat this demon. We'll take that chance, acquire power for ourselves, and that could be you getting yourself out of that and into a position of respect in Tevinter. You know, that could be your way of becoming respected in the Imperium, if it takes place there, which we hope, fingers crossed it does, because that's the only area of the game world that we really haven't seen apart from Parvolan. You know, we've been to Ferelden, we've been to Orlais, we've been to, well, no, actually, there's quite a few areas we haven't been. We're forgetting Raveni, we're forgetting Parvolan, we're forgetting Weishaupt, perhaps, and Tevinter. But we've been to Amaranthine, we've been to the Free Marches in a way. We didn't really see much of it. We saw the Wounded Coast, sorry. Storm Coast was in the third game. But if it does take place in Tevinter, these things, they could be a logical place for a character to begin. Because who's not going to want more power in Tevinter? Like Dorian said, the average non-slave, the average slave might think any power is good. Because when you have none, power in any form could be great. And in this case it will be, because you'll be put at the forefront. And since dwarves can't be mages, but they possibly can be slaves, we're not so sure about the slavery in the Imperium if you're... But, you know, these are some ideas we've had, and we'd like your opinion on them. Because, you know, it got voted Game of the Year. It won Game of the Year, did Inquisition, so there were plenty of people who played it. So, what are your thoughts? That's what we want to know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? You know, give us yours. Let us know what you think there should be. Have you got any idea for new game mechanics and stuff? We wanted to have a dialogue, because a game this big and this important to us personally, because we do enjoy the BioWare series, we're not too thrilled about Andromeda. We don't want to go to a new galaxy. We want to stay in this one. We want to see what happened. We want to see how Reconstruction has gone. Why are they taking us so far away from everything we know? Yeah, it could be a cool game, cool adventure, and it's not to do with anything in the first 3 games. But some of the characters could be alive. Let's face it, Liara. She'll live for over 1,000 years if she's not killed in the meantime. She's a Asari. Won't she be around still? It's only 300 years after the events of number 3, isn't it? Grunt could still be around. Edie's probably still there somewhere. She's a machine. She's immortal. You know, we want to know what happened. So we're not looking forward to Andromeda, but if the next Dragon Age Imperium perhaps, if it goes the way we think it might, we're looking forward. We're eager for this one. So maybe you could give us your thoughts. Anyway, that's all the time we've got today. So